Welcome to HB Reddit Stories. Today we will see stories of r/am I the a-hole. Am I the a-hole for not telling a man that the research he was mansplaining to me was my own? I don't normally post on Reddit, so please forgive me if I do this wrong. I, 33F, work in a very small, technical, specific, male-dominated field. I won't give too much information on it as I think you could easily find my identity if I did, but let's just say it's a subcategory of law. I graduated 9 years ago. For anyone wondering, the system in my country is different than in the US, so I only studied for 5 years, and am now a lawyer as well as a researcher. I published some work here and there but nothing too major, and no one outside of that field knows my work. Yesterday I went to a bar with a couple of friends who introduced me to one of their friends who works in the same field as me. I was pretty excited to meet him because it's rare to meet people who work in that field. He doesn't exactly do the same thing as I do. He's not a lawyer but a legal advisor, but we work on the same topics. So naturally we started talking about our work. At one point we were discussing a point on which we had different opinions, so I explained mine to him and he replied by saying that my opinion was based on nothing while his was based on the work of a professional, you guessed it, me. He basically started explaining my work to me, but in a completely wrong way and missed all of my points. I asked him if he was sure that that was what the author meant, and he said that he was because it was pretty simple actually. For another good 20 minutes he explained all of it to me in details, like I was a first-year law student. I didn't say anything because it was pretty funny to watch him say things that were completely wrong with so much confidence. After that the topic changed and the night went on, but at the end of the night right before leaving I decided to tell him that I was actually the person that wrote the work he had quoted, and that he hadn't really understood it. He reacted very badly and got angry, and he told me that I had manipulated him to humiliate him. He yelled at me for not saying it was my work at the beginning. I simply replied that he had embarrassed himself and left. I woke up this morning to texts from my friends saying I was wrong for causing drama and tension and that I could have been nicer to their friend. I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong there. I mean, yes, I could have told him right away, but is it that big of a deal that I didn't? I'm not exactly sure. Am I the a-hole? Edit, I forgot to make this clear and maybe it's a bit of a misunderstanding, but both conversations happened only between the two of us. We were the only ones talking about our work and our friends also weren't really there when I told him that I was the author. So it's not like I publicly humiliated him. The only thing embarrassing for him here is that a woman seemed smarter than him, and I think that's what GE had an issue with. Edit 2. I've seen some comments claiming that this post was fake because that just doesn't happen. I've seen many other stories where the same thing happens. That's not realistic. I'm not trying to justify anything because I don't really care, but I just find it funny to see lots of comments from women sharing similar stories and then lots of comments from men saying it doesn't happen. Top comments. Not the a-hole and kudos to you for being so calm when he mansplained your own research. Question. Did your friends also reprimand their friend for screaming at you? I mean, that wasn't exactly friendly either. This is as good as that man on Twitter that tried to tell Margaret Atwood which religious doctrine The Handmaid's Tale was a critique of. Not the a-hole. OP replies. Oh, I remember seeing that tweet. It was hilarious. Men really have the audacity. Not the a-hole. He effed around, found out. He's just pissed as a small man that realized he was outclassed and potentially made some massive career errors. Being plain wrong, to start with, and then being enough of a misogynist to behave like that without realizing you were the author. You took the trash out. He probably behaves like this in the office too, so taking him down a peg probably hit too hard. Not the a-hole. A decent person would just laugh and apologize, admitting he really must have looked funny to you, and then respectfully ask to explain the points he did not get. No matter how late you revealed the truth, and even if you said that a little bit bitter, any sane, healthily confident person would apologize for misinterpreting your text. He could continue arguing, but how he reacted was not normal. You're okay. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to babysit after my sister demanded I stop bringing my boyfriend to family events? I 20M have been dating my boyfriend, Ryan 22M, for about a year. My sister, Amanda, 28F, has a 4-year-old Jack. After a family barbecue last month, Amanda pulled me aside and said, "Hey, just so you know, it might be better if you don't bring Ryan to the next few family gatherings." I asked her why, and she got all awkward, saying, "Jack's been asking questions about you and Ryan, and I don't think he's old enough to understand all that yet." I told her we weren't exactly putting on a pride parade in her yard. We were literally just eating hot dogs and chatting with family. She replied, "It's just confusing for him. You know how kids are." I was mad but kept it together and said, "If Ryan isn't welcome, maybe I just won't come either." She sighed and said I was being dramatic. Last week Amanda called me, panicked, because her babysitter cancelled. I told her I couldn't because Ryan and I already had plans. She begged, saying she was desperate, and I finally snapped, "Why do you want me babysitting Jack? What if I accidentally expose him to my terrifying gay lifestyle? God forbid he sees me and Ryan together." Amanda blew up. She accused me of using Jack to make a point and said, "This isn't about Ryan. It's about you being spiteful. You're punishing Jack 'cause you're mad at me." She told my parents, and that's when real drama started. My mom called and said I was being selfish for letting a small disagreement ruin my relationship with Amanda. I told her it wasn't small and reminded her of Amanda's comment about confusing Jack. Mom brushed it off, saying, "She's just doing what's best for her child." I said, "What about what's best for me? Why do I have to hide part of my life to make her comfortable?" My dad sided with me. He said Amanda was being narrow-minded and told her, "Kids aren't confused by love, they're confused by people acting like it's something to hide." Amanda then put the drama into the fam group chat. My uncle said, "It's not homophobic to want to protect your kid from topics they're not ready for. Why push it?" This set off my cousin. She said, "If Jack's old enough to understand that Amanda and Mike are married, then he's old enough to understand Uncle, me, has a boyfriend." She accused Amanda of being a hypocrite and called out my uncle too, saying, "Let's not make this about your own outdated beliefs." She also called Amanda stuck-up B-word, and my uncle called my cousin drama queen. My aunt chimed in on the family chat saying, "I don't agree with me lifestyle, but we should still support each other." My grandmother replied, "Support doesn't mean tolerating disrespect." Amanda's husband Mike texted me saying, "Look, I don't have an issue with you or Ryan, but this is getting out of hand. Amanda's just trying to avoid awkward questions from Jack, not insult you." I told him, "It's already insulting. Would she say the same thing if I were dating a woman?" He left me on scene. Am I the a-hole? Top comments. Not the a-hole. If Jack is old enough to understand a man and woman being together, he's old enough to understand a man and man being together. I am also gay and I would have said the same thing to my sister. It's disappointing that this has divided your family, it really brings out their true colors. I think you should go little to no contact with your sister. Opie replies, "I haven't spoken to my sister in days now. I'm definitely considering going no contact with her." Some of these comments are saying that she is using Jack as a way to hide her homophobia, and honestly, now that I think about, she might be. What's confusing to me is my whole family were supportive of me when I came out, and they all were so nice and respectful to Ryan when I introduced him to the family. I just don't know why everyone has switched up all of a sudden. Not the a-hole, but those family group chats sound hella interesting. Like a soap opera. Opie replies, "This isn't even half of the drama that's gone down, just a quick brief as it's too long for me to post the rest of it." The group chat has been going off for days and each family member is now torn. I am shocked at the level of pathology it takes for your sister to take your personal disagreement, expand it to your parents, and then take it public in a broader setting with the large family group chat. Her husband reaching out to you to tell you that things are out of hand, when this is all his wife's doing, is really just icing on the dysfunction cake. She and your mother are absolutely wrong, and your father is absolutely correct. A 4-year-old will be the most empathetic, the least judgmental, and the least confused about two people spending time together and showing they care for one another. Your sister is the one much more likely to create confusion and sow seeds of future homophobic judgment within her children for how she is behaving. And, please, since she has made this a public discussion in your family, show her the results of that here. She needs to understand that her children are much more likely to be damaged by her decisions and parenting, or lack thereof, than anything you could possibly do. Her behavior is appalling, and so incredibly self-serving when she suddenly forgets her concern about your lifestyle when she needs a babysitter. And then, to levy or attempt to levy feelings of guilt within you when you point out her clear hypocrisy is just really laughable if it were not so sad. Since this has become a huge family ordeal, I think a well-worded letter/email/chat pointing out all of these things is in order, but the last sentence should read, "This situation has been created and amplified by my sister, and it is up to her to rectify it through apologizing for her homophobic behavior, and rethinking her dynamic boundaries that seem to change when she is in a bind with babysitting." Not the a-hole. What awkward questions are they talking about? It's really very easy to explain to a 4-year-old that grown adults can be in a relationship with each other, whether it's a man and a woman, 2 men, or 2 women. I know it's easy because I did that for my own child when he was little. Jack can totally handle your relationship with Ryan, it's the adults in your family who cannot. You are absolutely right to object and to not babysit if this is the attitude they are going to give you about it. Next story. Am I the a-hole for rage quitting after I lost an election? I, 28F, have been a member of a large volunteer organization for several years. I am one of the longest standing members. I have spent hundreds of hours on various aspects of it, I've held small leadership positions in almost every area, and I have a large amount of experience being the president of another organization as well. When I first joined, things were not doing well, so I, with others, worked our butts off to improve that, and we did. In fact, we did so well with improving the atmosphere that we had a massive amount of incoming members, who quickly became very close with each other, something we specifically encouraged, and have absolutely no idea how bad things used to be, or how much behind-the-scenes work it takes to maintain the way things are now. I ran for president in the most recent election. I ran against 5 other candidates. 4 of us had years of experience and had been preparing our campaign for months/years. One person, let's call them Alex, was extremely new, a few weeks, had 0 experience at all, decided to run at the last minute, and had a very large friend group with other new members. Alex was barely allowed to run due to how new they were, but made the cut by a handful of days. You can see where this is going. It was extremely close between me and Alex, and I lost by 1 vote. The rest of the elected officials were all new members, of the same friend group, also without experience. Then, it was discovered that 9 to 10 votes, specifically the votes of other people in leadership positions who worked closely with me, were not counted. This was not intentional or malicious, simply a computer error. Apparently every single one of them voted for me. I technically won. They tried to get the election results overturned because of it, but higher-ups would not allow it, because they feared it would look like favoritism. At the end of the day, I was told to keep quiet and not let anyone know about this. That brings me to my current situation. Because nobody on the new executive team has any experience, I started facing a lot of pressure to take on a lower leadership position solely to guide them and ensure our hard work doesn't go to hell. I absolutely refused. In fact, I've decided to drop all leadership roles and do absolutely nothing this year. This has led to multiple people telling me that I don't truly care about the organization, that I'll be responsible if it falls apart, etc. I feel like it's a slap in the face to expect me to do what a president does without the title to show it. Am I the a-hole for dropping all leadership positions and letting the new team do whatever the hell they want to do? Top comments. First things first. Is there a paper trail where someone admits to the vote thing? Like that's provable? I wouldn't try to use it to overturn the decision, but I would absolutely publicly tell them that is the reason I'm quitting. And then quit. OP replies. There is a paper trail. Not the a-hole if you do an actual handover. Give them a document or spreadsheet noting what things need to be done for the position you've just vacated. Point them in the direction of where previous meeting minutes, financial details/requirements, etc. can be found. Maybe schedule of events that are typically run through the year. Then you can leave with a clear conscience. I'd recommend leaving the organization entirely, and finding something else to spend your energy on. I was promised the next promotion was mine and coming soon. I had been operating in a temporary role for almost a year, and had 8 years with the company. The next opening came up, and a woman that had been with the company for 2 months in another district put in a transfer and was given the role. At my location, working for my mentor. I was asked to train her. That night I put in applications for other companies. By the end of the week I put in my notice. Transfer girl lasted 4 months. Not the a-hole. They can reap what they've sown. I personally would make it clear that all the votes were not counted, you were asked to stay quiet, and asked to essentially do the work of the position behind the scenes with no recognition. Editing to add, we don't know what the organization is, but there are often several organizations to join with similar missions and several ways to be in service of that mission. Opie could also start her own nonprofit, and she may find others from her past are willing to follow. Are you a woman? Keeping quiet about injustice is something people expect from women. Opie replies. Indeed I am. Not the a-hole. Fair elections matter, and if the organization will fall apart because of one person stepping back, that's not the fault of the person, it's the fault of the organization. Classic Schrodinger's employee. Not valuable enough to defend as the rightful elected president of the institution, while simultaneously too valuable to have stepped down because you are integral to the very fiber and existence of the organization. Not the a-hole. A mentor of mine was fond of saying, volunteering is optional. Doing the job is not. You are well within your right to step back, at any time, for any reason. And if the organization falls apart, that's on the elected leaders. Next story. Am I the a-hole for moving all my daughter's belongings to my parents' house and leaving nothing for my husband's affair kid? Am I the a-hole for this? My husband told me Saturday that he'd had an affair and had a kid from it. Our kids are 14M and 10F and this child is 9F. Something happened to her mother in the last couple weeks, I was a little too busy screaming at him to listen to the details, and he was leaving to go get her. My daughter came to me crying saying that he told her she had to share her room and her stuff with this girl for now. I called my parents and they agreed to her staying in their guest room, 2-bedroom condo, so my son and I are staying at the house. We packed her stuff and Monday my parents, sister, brother-in-law, and nephews helped us move all her stuff to my parents' place. They also helped put locks on my bedroom and my son's bedroom. We moved all my husband's stuff from my bedroom to the 4th bedroom that he used as a home office. Yesterday evening my husband got home with his affair kid. He got mad about all the stuff being gone and nothing being left for her. She's from a much warmer area and doesn't have clothes for the cold here, we live in the northern part of the US. This morning he caught me in the kitchen to complain to me about it again and said I was being cruel by not making my daughter share with her. Am I the a-hole? Top comments. I mean, definitely not the a-hole for refusing to make your daughter share her belongings with your husband's affair child. But also, like, what is your ultimate game plan here? From the post, it sounds like you have completely relocated your daughter to her grandparents' house. Even if she gets to keep all her stuff with her, it's not fair to move her out of the home just to safeguard her belongings. Honestly, it sounds like you need to kick husband to the curb and let him figure out how he needs to care for his affair child. If you intend to stay with husband for some reason, then you need to seriously work through those logistics to ensure your daughter can come home, and figure out how your husband's affair child factors into that equation. Opie replies. I'm going to file for divorce. My plan right now is for my daughter to stay with my parents until he moves out or I move out. Not the a-hole. His plan was to make your daughter share. Not go out and buy her some essentials to get by while assessing what else is going to be needed. Make both girls share a room with a stranger out of the blue. And not as a question of a couple of weeks but permanently. Not give up his home office to create a bedroom for her. Everything he was planning on was guaranteed to undermine your daughter's sense of security, safety, and sense of her place within your family. Yeah, the affair daughter is here and needs to be taken care of. But not by undermining your other children unless it is the absolute last and therefore necessary option. Plus, the sheer audacity to expect that he just got to unilaterally dictate that to your daughter, not discuss with you and agree together on what would happen. Opie replies. He was going to put her in the office room after cleaning it out and getting her furniture. I just didn't want my daughter to deal with sharing everything she owns in the meantime. Not the a-hole. Dude will have to support this child, and will have to be paying child support for your son and daughter if you go the divorce route. You owes nothing to this child. Your daughter can make her choice with time, but since it took your husband 9 years to tell your daughter, your son and yourself, it's a lame and sad effort by your husband. He obviously is dealing with the crap hitting the fan, but it is his crap and his fan, so his panic is his own doing. Not the a-hole, but file for divorce ASAP. He clearly knew about this child. It was not a surprise to him. He's been lying to you for almost a decade, longer than that if you count the time he was having the affair. You and your children deserve so much better. File for full custody and child support, and he can figure out everything he needs for his affair child. It's not the child's fault, but it is 1000%, and it is also 1000% not your responsibility to make his life any easier when he blew up your life, but your kid's life and your family. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, make sure like, comment, share and subscribe the channel HB Reddit Stories.